Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Thursday morning. It's Stephen Whiteside here from theuptrend.com. In the pre-market this morning, stock index futures are currently mixed. We do have the market waiting for a whole bunch of numbers to come out at 8:30. Yesterday, we had a huge reaction off the CPI numbers. We'll have to see if that continues on Thursday. We've got retail sales, jobless claims, manufacturing numbers all coming out at 8:30 this morning. Yesterday, there was a huge overreaction for the CPI numbers, and the buy button was hit. You have to imagine that a lot of that initial buying was short covering, and we'll have to see if there's continuation to the upside today. Now, we were looking for three things to happen. The VIX certainly accommodated us. It was down sharply yesterday and closed on a sell signal. That can be supportive for higher stock prices. We did see movement in the US dollar index, not enough to give us a sell signal. We did get a buy signal in the Canadian dollar, but not the euro. The euro closed down slightly on the day. So there was some movement in currencies, but not enough to change anything dramatically. And then we also had movement in the bond market, but no buy signal just yet for the 30-year bond, no sell signal for the yield on the 30-year bond, but it did come down sharply yesterday. So we'll have to see if we get continuation in those two areas, currencies and bonds, on Thursday. Now, yesterday we had a bunch of financials come out with earnings, and the market was overwhelmed by those numbers. And again, there could have been some short covering here, but JP Morgan was already on a buy signal. I noticed that it drove up to the high from back in November, but did not gain any new ground. So we'll have to wait and see if people want to overpay and pay up above the November high. We saw a pop in Wells Fargo yesterday. We saw a pop in Citigroup. Citigroup already on a buy signal. We had a big move up in the Bank of New York, again, not taking out the November high just yet. Similar situation for Goldman Sachs on Wednesday. And there's the financials ETF back on a buy signal as of Wednesday's close, joining the banks and regional banks, which went to Wednesday already on a buy signal. And then we've got broker dealers back on a buy signal, and we've got insurance stocks back on a buy signal. Of course, nothing changed yesterday in regard to what's going on in California, so that is still a major liability for these companies. Now, just a quick reminder, when we talk about shorting stocks, we want to do it off the top of the panic zones when an early warning signal has gone off and we get a sell signal on the right side chart. That's when we want to short stocks. The public and a lot of the market likes to short things when they're down at the bottom of the panic zones. And the reason for that is that's when you get the most negative news about a particular symbol or an industry. It doesn't matter, but a lot of people in the market need over confirmation. They need a lot of evidence that things aren't working, and that's typically when a market will find its footing and start to move back up. And a lot of times the initial movement up is people having to cover their short positions. If you've been shorting since the start of December, you've got some profits, you've taken money off the table. And so yesterday's big bounce isn't that damaging to you compared to somebody who shorted in the past couple of days. So here we are. I call it a short covering bounce. That's what's going on right now. Nothing major has changed. The market is trying to hold the 200-day moving average for insurance companies. That is certainly a logical place to start. But then, of course, we've got overhead resistance to get through on the way back up, and that could take a lot more work. And when we talk about work, we talk about money. Now, the Fed is supposed to be fighting inflation. They're also supposed to be keeping the banking system alive. They kept the banking system alive yesterday, but certainly inflation is not under control. Copper prices moved up yesterday. Of course, copper is involved in just about every aspect of manufacturing and construction. Then we look at corn. Corn made a new closing high yesterday. 33% of all corn grown goes directly into feed, to feed your pigs, to feed your cattle. So there's inflation there. And then, of course, we had crude oil up sharply yesterday, up over 3%. And of course, that is extremely inflationary. And we had natural gas up nearly 4% on Wednesday. So the Fed's not doing a good job fighting inflation at the moment. Whether they can fight it or not is another story, but that is their mission. Now, what worked yesterday? Well, Energy stocks were up on both sides of the border, but the U.S. energy stocks are outpacing Canadian energy stocks at the moment because of the potential ramifications of Trump taking office next week. So there's the U.S. energy stocks up nearly 1.5% yesterday, while Canadian energy stocks were up just over 0.25%. So not being able to totally take advantage of those rising crude oil prices at the moment. Now, the story still has not changed. We're still making lower highs and lower lows right now. And we talked about the S&P 500 filling the election gap and bouncing. And it has certainly bounced. Yesterday was the biggest up day since the election day. And here we are. We've got the S&P 500 moving up over the last couple of days. It is back on a buy signal as of Wednesday's close. Again, we haven't changed anything so far. We need more upward action to change the story. And the first part of the story would be a higher high. So we need to take out the high from the previous week. Now, there's the Dow back on a buy signal as of Wednesday's close. We've got the S&P 500, SPY back on a buy signal. We've got the equal-weighted SPY back on a buy signal as well. The NASDAQ, we need a little more work. We need a little more work for the Magnificent 7 ETF. We've got the Russell back on a buy signal. We've got small caps back on a buy signal, but not micro caps just yet. So a lot of gaps yesterday, and of course, they may need to get filled at some point in the future. We're not going to worry about them on Thursday morning. We are looking to see if the market wants to continue from here, but we certainly have some buy signals to deal with. Now, the Canadian market was up yesterday, but certainly nothing like the U.S. market. The overall TSX was up 0.82%, while the TSX 60 was up 0.91%, so less than 1% on the day. Neither index generated a buy signal. We didn't get a buy signal for mid caps, small caps, or micro caps. That could certainly change on Thursday. The financials were up yesterday, not enough to give us a new buy signal. The big winners on the TSX 60 were Manulife and Sun Life, both very close to generating buy signals. We need to see fall through to the upside on Thursday. Then we've got Infotech up yesterday, and that was led higher by Shopify. Shopify still on a sell signal, no change there. Energy stocks, we talked about the energy sector earlier, up just 0.23%, so just under 0.25% on the day. Now, the biggest loser on the TSX 60 on Wednesday was Tourmaline, down 1.5%, still on a buy signal. Things would change on Thursday with a close below $66.93. Gold stocks were up on Wednesday, no change in trend there. Industrials closed the day higher, but gave up all their gains going into the close. No joy for the real estate sector. It was up on the day, no change in trend. We actually had telecom stocks close lower on Wednesday, so an inside day, and they found no joy from yesterday's big news in the U.S. market. And there's utilities up slightly on the day, but certainly no change in trend there. Let's finish off today's presentation walking through the Magnificent 7 stocks. And of course, we have 9. Apple was up yesterday, not enough to give us a buy signal. No joy for Amazon. No joy for Broadcom. We do have a new buy signal here for Alphabet, closing just above the upper channel line. New buy signal for Meta. No joy for Microsoft. Big up day, but not enough to give us a buy signal just yet. Then NVIDIA was up on the day, back in the channel. No change there. No change for Shopify. Tesla, on the other hand, ended the day on a buy signal, and 375 continuing to act as support. If that breaks, of course, we can see our targets to the downside. If we can take out 437.50, then we may take another run at $500. Okay, folks, that is all for this morning's presentation. The market really overreacted to a slight pullback in the CPI number, which is still moving up. And then yesterday they did so much buying that, they created more inflation on Wednesday, so making it tougher for the Fed to cut interest rates at the moment. So it was a weird day, probably a lot of short covering And of course, we'll be waiting to see if we get more fall through to the upside. If you have new buy signals and you're kind of iffy about them, why don't you just take half a position and add to that position if the market continues to move higher from here? Certainly, if you were short anything and it generated a buy signal on Wednesday, you need to cover that short position. And, you may want to sit on the sidelines, or you may want to flip from being short to being long. That is certainly at your discretion. Have a great day. Next time you'll hear my voice is on Friday morning. And at that time, we'll take a look through the most actively traded stocks from Thursday's trading action.
Thanks for tuning in until the very end of today's stock market timing educational video. If you found the content valuable, don't forget to express your support by hitting the like button, leave a comment, sharing with your friends, and subscribing to our channel for more insightful updates. Remember, in the world of stocks, timing is crucial, and following the trend can be your greatest ally. If you would like more information on how we can help you better time the stock market, please visit theuptrend.com.